Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to host today a very interesting person, civil activist, one of prominent civil activists in Austria, Mr. Gerhard Schuster, who is a active member of European Vision organization. So, good afternoon, Mr. Schuster. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Schuster, yesterday we actually had anniversary, a very petty anniversary of 300 days since Russian invasion into Ukraine started. And this war, which lasts for about 10 months, changed the pace of life of the whole Ukraine and definitely the whole European Union. And now, maybe you know, in many capitals, including Vienna, there are signs of solidarity when different institutions, they switch off the light in the state buildings, in operas, etc., to show solidarity with Ukraine, with Ukrainian people who suffer from the lack of electricity due to Russian damages, which actually Russia causes terroristic attacks. So what is your vision? How European politics changed during the last 10 months? Do you see any serious, let's say, changes in European politics? And you remember when there was a coronavirus, people used to say that after coronavirus, we will live in the new reality. So
I don't understand. After
coronavirus, people will live in new reality. So do you feel now that after the breakup of this great war, European continent live in the new reality?
That's a very good question. But first to say is maybe when we now came to that point where Russia has attacked Ukraine, then we have come to the end of a path where something has gone wrong, totally wrong. And the war, and this, in a certain way, now there is, it's this tragic now, and everything in one way everything changed, but the reason, of course, the reason is the aggressive Russian politics, but there is also a reason that we did not have for example, or in European Union, an idea which also has the power to, for example, if Europe would have been in a different shape, maybe Putin, for example, would not be anymore in power because the people have other interests to Europe. Also, the Russian people would maybe be more interested in Europe. And this is I'm not sure if the pandemia or the war do change. Maybe it's a chance. You're maybe right. Maybe this is a chance that the people realize that it is not enough. And for me, it's the most important thing is, and this is also what my organization, Eurovision, the vision for Europe, is about, with new ideas and democratic projects to bring Europe in another direction or in another shape, and these new ideas we need. For example, we always talk about freedom and about democracy, and of course we have democracy in a way in Europe, and the Ukraine also want to join the European Union because of democracy and freedom and I'm looking for the English word, der Rechtsstaat in German. The rule
I understand. Rule of law.
The rule of law, yeah. And this, I think, the rule of law is one of the most important thing people need, especially in countries where it is not, where the rule of law is not for sure for them. And this is a very big problem if there is the state without the rule of law. But democracy is not finished yet. We have the representative democracy in most of the countries. We need also a second pillar next to the representative democracy, which is called a direct democracy. We need a complementary democracy. For example.
From the other perspective, after the Lisbon Treaty was signed and came into force, European people, citizens of European Union, and European citizenship is granted upon the application of the national membership, national citizenship. People can launch an initiative by collecting 1 million votes, and then it lies on the table of European Commission. Commission has to initiate a bill which will be later considered by Council of European Union and the Parliament of European Union as two legislative bodies of European Union. So in some ways, we have this kind of, let's say, direct democracy. But now, if you know, Ukraine is pushing towards digitalization, and now what we are trying to enact the possibility to vote for the parliamentary elections, for the presidential elections by direct digital voting. Maybe you mean this, so when people can vote through their smartphones for decisions which then be applicable for the whole European Union. Do you mean this one? Yeah,
the European Citizens Initiative is, of course, an important step, and it's one. But it's only a first step. It's just the initiative. You can make a proposal and bring it to the European Commission, and but democracy in a how to say, maybe in a philosophic idea, the idea of people's sovereignty is not. It's not enough just to have the right to vote in elections, but also to have initiatives. We have the initiative in Europe. We have it in some countries too. But like in Switzerland, where the initiative also can get to a referendum. But my point before was that we always talk about freedom and democracy, and of course we are on this path to freedom and democracy. We are not on the same level than Russia, of course. But for example, freedom, the idea for example, freedom is always the idea of liberalism in our economy, and we also need solidarity, and for me, Europe itself is an idea. More than 200 years ago, the French Revolution showed us these three ideals: the freedom, equality, and fraternity, brotherhood. And these are like guiding forces. I want to say guiding forces. The freedom for the personal freedom, the question where I want to have my impulses, where to give my skills and talents, the freedom of speech and everything. And now, one more sentence. And now we have always the freedom of those who have not money to do what they want.
Mr. Schuster, I will try to argue with you. just to throw. So I will try to argue with you to throw several points into discussion. Yeah. I would agree with you, basically, because I also think that we now live in a situation when all people, they have the access to the all information they need. So basically, they are quite, it seems that they are quite prepared for the adoption of state-level decisions. But from another perspective, let's take an example of coronavirus. When there was a coronavirus, there were huge restrictions in European Union. There were restrictions in Ukraine as well. But due to the fact that in Ukraine is a post-Soviet country in some way, obviously those restrictions, coronavirus restrictions, they were not, let's say, obeyed fully. Yeah, so people violated these restrictions. They went to restaurants, etc. But obviously, Ukrainians, other European nations, I'm sure they would vote against these restrictions. Why? Because people don't think in long-term perspective. They want to go to a restaurant, they want to go to the gym, they want to have a rest, etc. They don't need masks, generally. So, and in the long perspective, let's say, we can't trace back the history. Runaway train or never going back. So there can be different speculations. We can take the Swedish example where there was almost no restrictions, or other examples, they show different things. But you never know. Maybe if there were no restrictions, for instance, there were more death cases. So what I try to stipulate is that still, I mean, there are many questions where politicians have to adopt a very bold decisions, which can be unpopular, but still these decisions show leadership and benefit the nations.
Yeah, I understand your argument, but for example, in Switzerland, there is a legal framework for how to act in pandemias or in epidemias, and it was a decision by the people, so years ago, and this legal framework gave the framework to the government to act in this crisis, in this corona crisis. So, you know, it's all about discussion, it's all about information within the democratic process. So, of course, we have to learn democracy, and maybe we also make mistakes. But what is a mistake? For example, if the will of the people goes in a certain direction, we have to make this experience, and we can learn from this experience and also change our decisions in a second step. And this is how we learn. But for me, the emancipation of human being is one of the European ideas, and it's freedom and it's democracy, but it's true freedom and real democracy, and we also need solidarity in a global sense. And for me, this is Europe. And this was my point. If other countries look to Europe and see that what we call freedom is a lot egoism and a lot violence to other countries,
selfishness.
Yeah, there's maybe Europe needs a little bit more ideas.
Empathy.
People can have even more respect from Europe. Europe is okay, but it's not at the end of its path, of the end of its way.
Mr. Schuster, I used to study in Vienna for 2 years. I traveled back and forth to Vienna, so I know Austria quite well. Because again, I had an experience, not as a tourist, but as a person who, let's say, lived in Austria, engaged with many people, etc. And I remember that actually I grasped this 10 years ago, that there was a huge Russian influence over Austria. Banks, the huge office of Gazprom near Belvedere, near French embassy. You understand what I mean?
I know this. Yeah.
So huge offices by Russian corporations, many Russian restaurants. So Austria, as London, two very popular capitals among Russian tycoons and let's say millionaires, was very receptive, open-hearted towards Russian money, even Russian laundered money.
Yeah.
And obviously, let's say, let's speak straight, Austria did not, feel afraid of Russia. And Austrians, they were very happy to take this money to earn on Russian investments. How the situation changed since the February 24? There is a cancellation culture now in Western. It means that you can't say something publicly because it can affect your reputation. Yeah, for instance, regarding men and women affairs, etc. Can we say now that after Russia launched this full-scale war, this terrible aggression, now to speak in good way about Russia can't be tolerated, and such person will be dismissed from his positions, from his social standing, as in the case of other, let's say, cancel culture cases. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. It's also a difficult question. For the first thing is that there were a lot of illusions about Russia before the February 24th. But for me, it's important in a way to have also an open heart to Russia, but not to Putin or not to this power politics and war politics, but to the people. And of course, also the people are responsible if they do not go to the street and fight also against the despotism in Russia. But I also have political activist friends in Russia, and they are also suffer from this politics. So, but what you also said is that money rules the world, and money, and this is also a big problem. We need ideas. For example, the Eurovision initiative has one project. It's called the European Credit Initiative, and this is a proposal to change the Lisbon Treaty in one paragraph of the statute of the European Central Bank. And we want to give the possibility to finance economy, to finance activities in economy. They forego profits. They are not anymore profit orientated. So I think we also have to check, not only because of wars and other crises, but for example, the ecological situation we are in our global situation. It's impossible to manage this crisis with growth of the economy and with the only following a profit motive. But we also have to ask the question, how can we finance everything we need? For example, how can we finance rebuilding the Ukraine? Yeah, it's a very important question. How can we finance this? Not by the profit thinking, but by the thinking that the Ukraine needs to be rebuilt now. And for example, this credit initiative, this European credit initiative, has ideas for this. So for me, everything is about the right ideas to overcome this ideological thinking of capitalism, but also of communism, of course. Yeah, it's also a wrong idea. We need new ideas.
But frankly speaking, yesterday I read a report prepared by the head of National Bank of Ukraine.
Yeah.
According to this report, only in Poland, Ukrainians paid about 4 billion euros taxes since February 24. And we are talking about Ukrainians who moved either before the war, so recently, or after the breakup of war. And this figure is higher than actually the funding which Ukrainians received to support themselves at the beginning of war, and some Ukrainians still continue to receive. So Ukrainians, they do not want to rest on laurels or rest on benefits. They are very eager to work and to contribute to European economy. And these estimations shows that about 0.5 GDP of European Union this year and second year will be brought by influx of Ukrainians into European economy.
Yeah, of course. That's an important thing. But, you know, at the end is the question, where does the money goes at the end? Does it help the people? Does it finance what we need? Or does it make only growth and profit and finance some people? Yeah. And for all our needs we have now with the ecological crisis, but also with the crisis like the war against Ukraine, we have, and it's no problem. De facto, it's no problem to finance everything. Everything we can do, we can also finance via credits. It's no, we can create money because we create goods. Yeah, we create new houses. We create everything what we can create for what we need. We also can finance. We only have to overcome this profit motive, and we can go towards a better world. My English is not so good, so I have to improve.
No, your English is fine. Mr. Schuster, the last question I would like to ask you is about Russians. You understand that in Ukraine now all Russians are bad. I mean, this is the major position. I mean, it is very understood. I don't say that all Russians support Mr. Putin. No, obviously there are many Russians who stood against Putin, etc. But for Ukrainians who sit without light, without electricity, without water, without heating, all Russians are the same, because Ukrainians are surviving. Many Ukrainians lost their beloved ones, etc. So it is very hard to distinguish good Russians from bad Russians, etc. But for European Union, this is, let's say, a challenge, because from one perspective, there is no, let's say, there is no notion of general responsibility. Even if you look to ECJ cases regarding free movement of people, the person to be prohibited to come to another member state has to show his personal conduct. So the fact that he belongs to the particular organization doesn't mean that he committed crime. So he has to show, let's say, by his personal behavior, that he represents the threat to the public safety. Then his free movement rights can be suspended. So regarding Russians, there are always different talks to ban all Russians' visas to Europe, to stop Russians' influx into European Union. But other perspective is, wait a minute, then you act on behalf of Russian propaganda. They can say Russian propaganda that you see, we here is like in the castle, which is occupied by Westerns, etc. So we have to, let's say, stay together, stay united. So what do you see has to be approach of European Union in this situation? Is it possible to stay objective and keep stick bold to European Charter of Fundamental Rights and European Convention for Human Rights? Or, let's say, Russians have to suffer because they did not, let's say, stopped Putin from usurping the power?
Yeah. First of all, it's totally understandable that Ukraine people have these feelings now against Russians. It is the same to Germany and after the second or in the Second World War. It's also it needs a long time for healing this wounds. But I think we have to support Russian civil society, and we have to strengthen democratic people in Russia. And for me, Europe is also the goal of this idea Mikhail Gorbachev called the common house of Europe. Mm-hmm. And Russia is also part of
Lisbon to Ural, from Lisbon to Ural Mountains.
I don't understand.
Gorbachev concept from Lisbon, Lisbon to Ural.
Yeah, now I understand. Yeah, that's right. From all over Europe. Yeah. And I think this idea is still an important idea also for Europe. Also, for example, the Ukraine want to join the European Union, and this is important. But for me, also, maybe I can tell this at the end of our talk. Now, the European Union is not the whole Europe. You know. For example, the European Council has now 46 members.
48.
Yeah, it's
47.
It was 47, but Russia is suspended.
Yeah, and Belarus, yeah.
And Belarus is not, so it's 46 now. It was 47 with Russia, and it's now 46. So, and this is also part of the European integration process after the Second World War, this European Council. Or, for example, also in October was founded the European Political Community. So Ukraine is part of this. And in my idea, and also Eurovision's ideas, we need a constitution which describes this reality of pluralism, of not only the European Union, but the whole Europe, and to have this, to have some kind like an inclusive constitution. And
but let's say if we're going back to the Constitutional Treaty of 2002, if you remember, there was a wonderful Article 17, which stipulated the primacy of European Union law over the national laws, which before were elaborated by the practice of ECG. And it caused a serious allergy among member states because they didn't want to introduce the principle or primacy of European Union law over national laws. Or, for instance, they didn't want to have European Union laws, European Union framework laws. Still, we have the old scale regulations, directives, decisions, recommendations, not, let's say, European Union laws or framework laws, because it caused an allergy. So do you really think that it's possible now to go back to the constitutional talks?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure yet. But maybe this is the beginning of your questions. What maybe can be changed also because of the war now, that Europe comes closer together. But there is also the question, for example, will there be a new convention? There has this year, 2022, the Conference on the Future of Europe was held. And after this, the European Parliament asked for a new convention. Of course, the member states are against, or some of the member states are against a new convention. We have this in Article 48. If there is a change of the treaties, we need to do it in a convention. And for me, everything is about civil society. If there is enough power to talk about a next generation Europe, we need a Europe for the 21st century and for the next generation. And
one speed or multi-speed Europe?
Not a multi-speed Europe, but a multi-membership Europe. A multi-membership Europe, but a constitution which describes this also as a whole. To have an open and how to say, a versatile and open constitution. And then Ukraine is already part of Europe. Yeah, it's now part of Europe, and it will do the next steps also to the European Union. But the European Union is not the whole Europe. The Ukraine is already Europe.
Mr. Schuster, I appreciate your time, your energy. Thank you very much for spending time with our channel.
And I wish you all the best to Odessa. I love this town, the city of Odessa. I have been there, I told you, 2004. And I would like to come back someday. And we can meet in Vienna some.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear audience, for watching us.